In today's class, we continued the percent review that we started yesterday. A lot of people said that they needed more practice on percent, and so we're going to take another class period. If you're watching this video and you were out on Tuesday, but you haven't already completed the Tuesday work, please go back to the Tuesday folder, complete the makeup work for Tuesday, don't forget about the homework, then come back to the Wednesday folder. So today, we reviewed that percents is simply a rates per 100. So for example, in this notice and wonder diagram, we can see that we have a whole of 80. So 80 is our whole. Now, this blue diagram with the question mark is asking us, what percentage is 3 out of 4 of 80? When we think about the tape diagram that represents a percent, the entire bar shows us 100%. Again, we know 80 is the whole, which means that we know that the bar lining up with 80 represents 100%. If we're to split 100% up into 4 equal-sized groups, we know that each group will represent 25%. Now, notice that this is the same thing as saying 3/4 or 3/4 of 80. And the math checks out on that. 25 over 100 is equal to 3 out of 4, or 3/4. And the reason why is because if we're to divide 100 divided by 25, we get 4. And just realizing now that I messed this up, so scratch that. What I meant to write is 75 over 100 is equal to 3/4. That checks out, because if we divide the top and the bottom by 25, we end up at 3/4. And of course, you could also show what is 75%, and again, 75% is this blue part of the diagram. You could show what 75% of 80 is in the same way. 75 over 100 equals something over 80. Now, this proportion is a little bit difficult because you're not dividing a whole number. You're actually dividing 100 by 1.25, which means you also need to divide 75 by 1.25. But it will give you the same answer as if you just think about splitting up 80 into 4 equal groups. Each group would be 20. And you would know that 75% of 80 is 60. Pause this video and answer question 2. List at least 3 examples of percents that you see in the real world. Okay, so if you're watching at this point, you should have answered question 2. The bottom of this page says when you're finished, stop here and open your percent notes from yesterday. If you watched yesterday's video, you got those percent notes, and they just might be something that's helpful to have open while you are working on percent. So, activity 12.2 says Jada has a new puppy that weighs 9 pounds, and it's at about 20% of its adult weight. This is the exact same problem we saw yesterday. A 9-pound puppy is at about 20% of its adult weight. Here's a diagram that Jada drew about the weight of her puppy. The adult weight of the puppy is 45 pounds. How can you see that in the diagram? Well, we can see that 20% is equal to 9. And just like yesterday when we were working with the double number line, we know that if we have 5 groups of 20%, we end up at 100%. So we have 20%, 20%, 20%, 20%. And of course, if you add up all these nines together, you end up with 45, which is 100% of the puppy's weight, or another way to say that would be the adult weight of the puppy. Now, in question 2, we see that Jada's friend has a dog that weighs 90 pounds. And here's a diagram Jada drew that represents the weight of her friend's dog and the weight of her puppy. So we can see that the puppy weighs 9 pounds, and again, that's how much Jada's puppy weighs. But Jada's friend has a dog that weighs 90 pounds. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 groups of 9. This 9 on the bottom here is what represents Jada's puppy. So go ahead and pause this video and answer questions A, B, and C. Questions A, B, and C. Okay, so if you're listening to the video now, you should have answered questions A, B, and C on your own. A says, the dog is blank times heavier than the puppy. Well, we know that there are 10 9s to represent the dog. This is the full-size dog. And there's only one 9 representing the puppy. So the dog is 10 times heavier than the puppy because we need to multiply 9 10 times to get the total weight of the dog. Compare the weight of the puppy and the dog using fractions. The puppy's weight is blank of the dog's weight. Well, again, we know the puppy is 1 square of 9, whereas the dog is 10 squares of 9, which means that the puppy is 1/10 of the dog's weight because we would need 10 puppies to weigh as much as the dog. In other words, the weight of the dog divided by 10 equals the weight of the puppy. Question C says, compare the weight of the puppy and the dog using percentages. The puppy's weight is blank percent of the dog's weight. Well, again, we know that we need 10 groups of that puppy's weight to equal the dog weight, which means that the puppy's weight is 10% of the dog's weight. We also know that 1 over 10 is equal to 10 over 100. And remember that percents is just the rate per 100. Go ahead and pause this video and try activity 12.3 $5. Unpause the video when you come back. So if you're watching at this point, you should have answered A, B, and C in 12.3 $5. It says Noah has $5. Elena has 40% as much as Noah. How much does Elena have? I want to show you a few different ways to answer question A, and this video is just going to focus on question A. If you answered B and C, I will go back and comment. So we know that Noah has $5, and Elena has 40% as much as Noah. So there are a few different ways that we could solve this. We could use the tape diagram that we were introduced to in today's lesson. We know that the whole tape diagram is $5. But we know that Elena has 40% as much, which we could show with two 20%. Now, the reason that I chose to split up my tape diagram by 20% is so that it could add up to 100%. If I'd split it up by 40%, then I would have ended up at 40 plus 40 is 80, and then skipping over 100 to get to 120, which would have made it harder to answer my question. So we're looking for what is 40% of $5. So just like I split up 100% into 4 groups, I need to split up $5 into 4 groups. And when I split up $5 into 4 groups, I see that each group is simply $1, and 40% of $5 is $2. Now, another way I could show that is by thinking of percent as rate per 100. I know that 40 out of 100 is equal to something out of 5. Well, 100 divided by 20 equals 5. I need to do the same thing to my numerator, and I end up with 2 out of 5, or $2 out of $5 is equal to 40%. Another way I could have done this is by showing 40% as a decimal. I know that $5 times my percentage, which is 40%, over 100 is going to tell me what is 40% of $5. And this was something we covered in class yesterday that you might have missed. So let me write the formula below. When you know what your whole is, and in this case our whole is $5, you can multiply your whole times whatever you know your percent is, and in this case your percent is $40, divided by 100. And that simply converts your percentage, in this case 40, this could be any percent, doesn't have to be 40, just whatever your percentage is. It converts your percentage into a decimal. So, for example, $5 times 40% over 100 becomes $5 times 0.4, which also equals 2. So no matter what strategy we used, we ended up with $2 is 40% of $5. This lesson summary might be a helpful set of notes for you to go back to if you're feeling stuck or confused. It will stay in ClassKick. There's also notes posted that will show exactly what we worked on and discussed in class today in today's Schoology folder. Now, the last thing we did today was some review of finding a percent. So in this page, all of the questions are word questions, and it simply asks you to find a percentage of a whole number. Now, you guys got this because we just went over the notes of how to do that, so I'm going to have you do it on your own. But I just want to remind you of the key formula, which is that once you know what the whole is, you can always multiply the whole times the percentage divided by 100, and this formula will tell you whatever percents of the whole number. So for example, if I was asking you what is 50% of 20, you would multiply 20 times 50 over 100. If you need help, please send me an email and we can always schedule a time for a Zoom call. Don't forget that there is also an exit ticket and homework to make up from class today.